I just want to, first of all, the fact that there's so many people here is overwhelming to me. It's a testament to who Yaakov was, that after 20 years, so many people have come to pay tribute to Yaakov. And I'm looking around the room, and there are people in the room who knew Yaakov longer than I have. There are people from some former students, a former student at least, one, neighbors of ours from Seattle, family, friends. It's very, 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 very emotional, and we totally, totally appreciate your all coming. When we thought about planning this evening, and as you know, it's not the Yortzeit, it would have been Yaakov's birthday yesterday, so we wanted to have an evening, not of hespeting, but an evening where everybody's going to, or whoever wants to, lease roam, informal, sharing memories, stories, funny stories, sad stories, one-line jokes, whatever you associate with Yaakov. We're ready, just an evening of celebration of his life. My children, whose idea this was, and thank you guys for doing this, unfortunately never saw Yaakov from an adult, they never saw their father from an adult perspective. And I think part of tonight, in addition to paying tribute to Yaakov, is really helping all of us collectively build new memories and old memories. And they're gonna, want to hear your stories and share everything as well. Feel free to get up, walk around, eat. This is not a formal right here. I want to really please room. I just want to make one comment about the food, because it's just a little anecdote about Yaakov that I want to share. When we got engaged, Yaakov told me that he does not eat cooked vegetables. So we went on our honeymoon to Grossinger's. Those of you from the States, I will say Grossinger's Olav Shalom. And there were 10 people sitting at the table. We didn't know anybody. And in the middle of the table was a plate of Brussels sprouts. And my husband, who does not eat cooked vegetables, was the only person at the table who would dare to eat this. Now, on our honeymoon, I'm not so sure that Brussels sprouts was the best option. Shortly after we were married, I made spinach quiche. We were married long enough for me to have learned already never to tell him what's in the food. Because Yaakov was notorious, if he knew what was in his food, he wouldn't eat it. And one of the food, can the Appel children please be quiet?
It's going to be hard.
I made spinach quiche one night, and I served it to Yaakov. I didn't tell him what it was. And he ate it, and he said, "Oh, that was really nice. Can I have a really?" He didn't say very nice. He probably said very good. Nice was something I picked up from the Brits. I'm sorry. It was very good. Can I have another piece? And I stupidly said, "Of what? The spinach quiche?" And he said, "I don't eat spinach quiche." I said, "Well, you just did." He said, "No, I didn't eat spinach quiche." Now there was nothing else on the table. Okay, he never had spinach quiche again. But when I was thinking of what to serve tonight, and I thought of miniature quiches, the spinach quiche was there for Yaakov. Okay, so as was the coffee, by the way, because those of you who know me know that you can't talk to me until I've had 2 cups of coffee in the morning, which is something I inherited from my mother. Maybe not from my father, but you ever talk to mommy before coffee in the morning? Not if you wanted her to talk back. Yaakov never had coffee in his life. So the coffee is for me and the spinach quiche is for Yaakov. I want you all to enjoy yourselves, and please feel free, whenever you want, talk, whatever you feel like, adding, coming to say something from your seat, from the microphone, whatever works best for you. Welcome everybody. Thank you all so much for coming.
I'm just going to start with a little about Torah. That consists of my memory of my father, but we'll talk in Hebrew, so for those of the 4 people here that understand Hebrew.
Doesn't speak it very well.
Said you understood.
כמו שאמא שלי אמרה, אין לי הרבה זיכרונות בטח של אבא שלי בריא. זאת אומרת, אבא שלי נהיה חולה כשהייתי בן 7, ובן 10 הוא כבר נפטר, והזיכרונות שלי מאוד מאוד מוגבלים, וגם מה שיש לי זה הרבה פעמים תמונות שאני רואה באלבום, ואני יודע את הסיפור מאחוריהם, ואני בכלל לא יודע אם אני זוכר את זה, או שאני זוכר שאני אמור לזכור את זה. אבל מה שאני כן זוכר זה את הזיכרונות הפשוטים של ילד. וכשאני מסתכל עליהם, הרבה מהם קרו דווקא בבית כנסת. הרבה אנשים זוכרים את אבא שלי בתור חזן, בתור בעל תפילה, ואני זוכר אותו מנקודת מבט של ילד בן 5-6, מאוד גאה שאבא שלו עומד באמצע כל הבית כנסת, והוא עומד לידו, ואני זוכר אותו עושה את בראש השנה את עם הכבשה.
כבני מרון.
בדיוק, הוא עושה את הכל שם של הכבשה באמצע, ואני כאילו נשפך מצחוק באמצע תפילת ראש השנה, כי הוא עושה, אבא שלי עשה כבשה מול כולם. ואני זוכר את זה שאני מחזיק לו ביד, מחזיק לו ברגל, ואני מתחת לטלית שלו, ואז אחרי 10 דקות אני קולט שזה בכלל לא הוא, ואז מחפש אותו, זה היה נראה לי הסגן ראש עיר באותו, הוא בא להתפלל במניין החדש, כשזה עוד היה באולם, למעלה שם, אז נכון, אז הוא גם היה עם טלית, זה היה, מבחינתי היה, ואני גם זוכר אותו כשהוא חולה, ואני לא מבין למה לוקח לו 2.5 שעות להתפלל, ואני זוכר שאני לוקח אותו לבית כנסת ביחד עם כל שבת עם אנשים אחרים, וכמה זה היה חשוב לו, וכמה אני יכול ללמוד מזה, ורציתי לדבר 2-3 דקות על תפילה, ועל מה זה אומר. א', שיהיו דברים לעילוי נשמתו, וב', אחרי זה מוזמנים, כל מי שיש לו, פשוט באמת לבוא להגיד, אני יכול לדבר כל הערב, זה הבעיה, אז כאילו, אם אני לא יודע, אם אני...
הוא הבטיח מופע סטנדאפ אחר כך.
זה אפטר פארטי, אחרי זה...
You don't have to come up to the mic, you can speak from wherever.
כשמדברים על תפילה, זה בעצם אחד הפרדוקסים הכי גדולים של היהדות. אנחנו יודעים שאנחנו צריכים לעשות את 3 פעמים ביום, זה תופס מקום מאוד מאוד גדול, וכל היהדות, כל הסיפורים של האבות, בראשית, הכל תפילה שזור בהם, אבל כשאנחנו מנסים להבין מה זה, אנחנו מבינים שזה באמת דבר לא הגיוני. אנחנו, האנשים הקטנים, הפשוטים, באים ובעצם מעיזים לפנות, קודם כל לפנות למישהו שהוא 20,000 רמות מעלינו, כמו שלא כל אחד, זה עובד זוטר בחברה, ילך עכשיו למנכ"ל ויגיד לו מה הוא רוצה לעשות, אלא יש איזו היררכיה, ואנחנו פתאום עושים איזו קפיצת מדרגה ענקית, ולא רק שאנחנו פונים אליו, אנחנו גם אומרים לו, שומע, אני צריך עכשיו אופניים חדשות, אני צריך עבודה אחרת, כל מיני דברים שזה לא מעניין אותו, זה ממש לא מעניין אותו, זה גם לא אמור לעניין אותו. ובכל זאת, לא רק שאנחנו עושים את זה, ואנחנו עושים את זה 3 פעמים ביום, לפעמים גם באיזו מונוטוניות מעצבנת שכאילו רק מוציאים מילים, אבל זה גם מה שהוא רוצה מאיתנו. עכשיו, הפרדוקס הזה שאנחנו חושבים שאנחנו יכולים לשנות משהו אצל בורא עולם, הוא קשה לעיכול. כי אם אנחנו יכולים לשנות, והכל תלוי בנו, אז מה המקום של הקדוש ברוך הוא? הוא רק מגשים לנו משאלות, ואם אנחנו לא יכולים לשנות, אז למה אנחנו בכלל מתפללים? למה אנחנו עושים משהו שאנחנו לא יכולים להשפיע על דעת עליון? הרבה אנשים כבר כתבו על זה, הרבה אנשים, כל אחד הביא את זה שלו, אבל בעיקרון אנחנו רואים שתפילה, ככל הנראה, היא לא משנה שום דבר אצל הקדוש ברוך הוא, כי הקדוש ברוך הוא לא יכול להשתנות, אנחנו לא יכולים להגיד שהקדוש ברוך הוא נהיה יותר טוב או פחות טוב, הקדוש ברוך הוא כבר בשיא השלמות, הוא לא יכול להיות יותר טוב, אז ברור שהיא לא משנה משהו אצלו. כנראה שהיחיד שהיא משנה זה אנחנו, זה את המציאות שלנו ומה אנחנו עושים. התפילה, המשמעות שלה היא להוציא מחשבה שיש בתוך הגוף שלנו, בתוך החדרים שלנו, ולהוציא אותה. זאת אומרת, גם בכל דבר בחיים, לא משנה מה אתה עושה לפנים, כל עוד זה לא יצא לידי ביטוי, זה לא קיים. אבל ברגע שאתה מוציא ואתה מדבר ואתה הוצא את המחשבה, את הגרעין הקטן הזה שנזרע אצלך במוח, ואתה מעלה אותו על המחשב, ואתה פורט אותו בפני מישהו, אתה עושה איתו משהו, אתה עושה דברים כדי ליישם אותו, הוא כבר הופך, לא רק מחשבה, הוא הופך למציאות. ולא סתם אנחנו אומרים כשהעולם נברא, הוא נברא בדיבור. ב10 מאמרות נברא העולם. לא רק מה זה מאמרות? זה כל הפעמים שויאמר השם ויהי אור וכולי. אבל יותר הגיוני להגיד ויברא. אבל הקדוש ברוך הוא מלמד אותם בדרך האמירה הזאת, שבריאה זה משהו שרק הקדוש ברוך הוא יכול לעשות. ואם היינו אומרים רק בריאה, היינו חושבים שאנחנו לא יכולים לשנות שום דבר במציאות, כי זה כוח עליון. אבל כשמדבר על אמירה, ויאמר, אנחנו כבר מבינים, גם אני יכול להגיד משהו, גם אני יכול לשנות משהו במציאות. ולכן העולם נברא על ידי הדיבור. וזה קצת חלק ממה שאנחנו עושים היום. כמו שאמא שלי ציינה, אני מניח שבעולם אחר היינו פה קרוב לוודאי אותם אנשים שקשורים להורים שלי. חוגגים פה יום הולדת 70 לאבא שלי, נספים ועושים דברים יפים. אבל זה לא קורה. אבל על ידי הזיכרונות, על ידי הדיבורים, על ידי זה שאנחנו מוצאים, אנחנו קצת יוצרים מציאות אחרת, אנחנו מחיים אותו פה מחדש. וזה קצת, אם אפשר, מה שנעשה היום. אני סיימתי, אם יש מישהו שרוצה זמן להצביע, אם לא, יש לנו כמה אנשים שכבר התנדבו מראש לדבר,
אז אחד הדברים שבאמת היו דומיננטי מצלם שלי זה שהוא היה בעל תפילה. והוא היה נוהג לעלות בתור בעל תפילה לימים נוראים. והיה שנה אחת כשהם היו בארצות הברית עדיין, שהוא היה צריך להקליט את עצמו בשביל איזשהו תפקיד, והקלטות האלה נשארו אצלנו. יש לנו קטע שבחרנו להביא, וזה היה כיף.
אני ממעש נרעש ונפחד מפחד יושב תהילות ישראל בוסי לעמוד ולהתחנן לפניך על עמך ישראל אשר שלחוני.
זה ככה משהו שמלווה אותנו כל שנה לקראת ימים נוראים. זה חלק מהזיכרונות שלנו. אנחנו חיים ככה קצת את הזיכרון הזה. אנחנו נשמח אם תוכלו לשתף גם אתם.
אני חייב לשתף אתכם בתקופה שקשה אולי לחלקכם לזכור. זה היה תקופת האוטובוס. היה פעם דבר כזה, לפני שכולנו רכב צמוד, אחרי עבודה, וכל ההייטק וכולי, ואני ויעקב היינו נוסעים על אותו מסלול לכיוון תל אביב, והאוטובוס היה כמובן עמוס, בגלל שבאמת לא היו רכבים פרטיים בכמויות של היום. ואני הייתי עולה לאוטובוס ראשון, והייתי הולך אחורה כדי למצוא מקום לרגליים, כי תמיד הייתי מתכווץ בתוך זה. ויעקב, אחרי שעוד עוזר בכלל, היה עולה גם כן. והיה מתיישב ונעלם. לא רואים יעקב. הוא רואה שבוע אחד, אני כבר לא יכול להתאפק, אני בוחר ללכת לשבת על מקום שהוא היה, והוא עולה ויושב במקרה לידי, מיד, מוציא ספר, פותח אותו. אני שואל אותך, יעקב, מה אתה עושה? אני לומד משניות. אני שואל, למה? הוא מסתכל עליי, למה? אני יהודי. אוקיי, אני גם יהודי, לא לומד משניות, אבל יש לי זמן פנוי באוטובוס, אני רוצה לנצל אותו. אוקיי, אבל כשאני פותח ספר באוטובוס, אני מתחיל לתפוס בחילה, וזה שלא מסוגל. נכון, ככה התחלתי, ועם הזמן התרגלתי, ואני לומד. הסיפור הזה עשה עליי רושם מאוד 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 חזק. ובסופו של דבר, אמרתי, אם יעקב יכול לעשות את זה להתגבר, בואו ננסה. היה רץ הדברים, וזה היה שבוע ספר העברי. ואני הלכתי, כמו שהיינו עושים אז לפחות, ואולי היום, ליד לבנים, היה דוכן שמכרו, קראתי, למרות רוחה של אשתי, קניתי את כל המכלול. התחלתי מברכות בסבל רב, בעמל יגון, ולאט לאט, לאט לאט, לאט לאט, 20 וכמה שנים אחרי, כבר בסבב השלישי של סיום המשנה, וזה בזכות רבי יעקב אפל, זכרונו לברכה. אם אתה מחפש מישהו שעשה עליך השפעה לכל החיים, לפחות מאותו נקודת זמן, חבר'ה, זה. שאלה אותי, דינה מכירה את הסיפור הזה, כי לא הסתרתי אותו, ושאלה אותי, אוקיי, ברור שאני מוכן, אבל על מה? מה שאתה עושה במילא. אז אני במקרה לומד כרגע מסכת בחומות, שיש פה הרבה דברים ממש לא מתאימים לקהל הזה. אמר לי, איך אני אדע מה לבחור? ויצא הגורל שאני פשוט נעצרתי, ובאמת לא דיברתי, במשנה זין בפרק ח', שבמקרה המקור שלו נמצא בפרשת קורח. ומדובר על הכסף שמשתמשים בו כדי לפתות את הבכור שנולד כבן בכור למי שאינו כהן בלוי, והוא צריך לפתות את זה ב5 שקלים אצל הכהן. אני לא יכול כל הקהל, אני לא אעלה אותך בכל האדם, אני אעשה את זה ממש בתקציר, ואני לא אעלה את כל ההסברים הנוספים, אני פשוט אקרא מה שכתוב. 5 שלעים של בן במנה צורי, זאת אומרת 5 שקלים שצריך לתת לבן כדי לפתות אותו, הוא צריך להיות במנה צורי. מנה צורי זה בעצם שקל צרוף, שבכסף בערך, ביחד זה יוצא 96 גרם, כל אחד מהם זה בערך 20 גרם, זה 100 גרם, היום סביבות 5,000 שקל, פחות או יותר ככה זה יוצא. וממשיך המשנה ודבר על מקרים אחרים שיש לפתות גם בכסף, 30 של עבד, שזה המקרה של שור שנוגח בעבד או בהמה, הבעל השור נוגח צריך לשלם 30 שקל לדבר הזה, ו50 של אונס ושל מפתה, 2 מקרים שבהם השווי של הנזק שנעשה על הנערה שלא נדע סובלת, בעצם 50 שקל לכל המקרה, ו100 של מוציא שם רע. אם אדם מוציא על אשתו טענה שהיא לא בתולה, אז הוא חוטף את הקנס הכי גדול, יש פרשה שלמה שלא ניכנס גם אליה, אבל 100 שקל על הדיבה הזאת. כולם בשקל הקודש במנה צורית. כל הדברים האלה צריכים לעבור בכסף המלא במנה צורית. וכולם נפתים בכסף, בשווה כסף, חוץ מן השקלים. וכולם נפתים בכסף, מה זה פירוש? אם אתה צריך לשלם את הקנס הזה, אתה או יכול לשלם בכסף ממש, או יכול לשלם בסחורות או בשווה כסף, חוץ מן השקלים, שזה בעצם המקרה בהם שאתה ממש צריך לתת כסף, כגון מחצית השקל, ששם זה חייב להיות מטבע, או מקרה של מעשר שני שצריך לפתות בירושלים, וזה חייב להיות גם בצורת מטבע. בסך הכל, המשנה הזאת באה לתת פרספקטיבה של כמה שווה החיים, כמה שווה הבן אדם, בעיניי, יש כזה משניות.
It just reminds me that I wish Michael had communicated to me better about what happens in the bus. Because I remember also going in a bus. I remember going in a bus to Tel Aviv with Yakov also. And Yakov was sitting opposite and he said hello. And I said hello, and he was like the fromest person I'd ever met. And I didn't know whether I could sit next to him, and I said, can I come sit next to you? And he said yes. And,
She's been doing this to me for years. Okay, I'll
What
say.
did you talk about?
We just chatted where he was going. He didn't mention Mishnah Yotzor or anything. But Asadina knows that when I had like my simple questions, do you remember I told you last time, like the on Shabbat and everything, he so patiently explained to me that Garama and all that. And I always think of it when I do the time switch the right way round. Another thing that I also remember with his davening, I once, when he finished, he davened really nicely, and I said, oh, very nice davening. No one has ever, have I said it to anyone else, or I go, thank you, Chati, or whatever. He just looked at me like, why is she saying this? He goes, the most important thing Hashem should listen and accept our prayers. He didn't want any compliments or anything. I also remember the time when Adina's father was very ill over Rosh Hashanah, and Yaakov was left with the children, and we were all saying, "Oi, poor Yaakov, he's got to look after the children 2 days by himself. Adina's not there." And we said, "How are you managing?" And again, he looked at me as if to say, "Why are you asking that?" He said, "He should get well." He's like, "Why are you thinking about how I'm managing? That's not the car here." I just remember a really, really, really nice man. And also you, I remember Ilana, when it was your bat mitzvah and you had to speak to loads of people and you've got your little voice and nobody could hear you. I remember him saying to you very good, like, a little louder. and calming. And he was very, very proud of his children. And I remember when he got sick, when his like came to play, it was hard to talk, it was hard to do anything. But he never stopped. No, I'm sorry. I don't even remember, but she's over there. And I remember it was hard for him, and he always made sure that no one was wrong.
He was one of the few people who could make time stand still. How? If you, the older guys at the Minyan will remember that we used to go, slichot, we used to have slichot in various houses, and then we used to use the Old English prayer. And I used to have a section which says, if time is lacking, skip to page X.
Oh no.
And for some reason, whenever Yaakov was davening, time was never lacking. We tried.
I just want to say thank you, Michael and Linda, but I'm looking around the room, and I said before that there are people from different stages. As I look around the room now, there's representation from Yaakov's college days, Mayor Mizal, our Shadchan Danny Gordon, okay, our dear friends from Teaneck who just walked in, Ellen and Richie, our neighbors from Seattle, and all of you. We have from almost every stage of Yaakov's life represented here tonight. And I said I'm a student people.
So as we said, this will also be not only a night of memories and sharing stories, but also a night of nikuni. So.
Excuse my voice, but I'm now going to show you a few songs my father used to sing to us every night. I know some fathers read their stories to their kids for bedtime. We always got music. We always got songs.
The first one I think a lot of you know.
No. You're not understanding English either, so. A couple of points. Most people, when their parents get old, you don't want your children to go and visit the parents, the grandparents for these children. They're old, they're in hospital, they're not well. You want them to remember the grandparent, the parent, in their best way. For me, actually, Yaakov, when he was ill, showed the strength of his, or what he was. As I always mentioned, he found it difficult to speak towards the end. He found it difficult to stand towards him, but he would nevertheless stand, say Shemona Esrei, in Ariel school, which was the Ariel shul at the time, and he would spend as long as he needed, and to give kavod to the whole kehillah that was with him. We waited for him. That was the one side, his strength and his faith, his emunah, all the way through to the end. The other part of that was he didn't lose his sense of humor. He couldn't walk, as I said. He needed a wheelchair. So we had a rota to push him home in the wheelchair. And every so often I would push him home in the wheelchair. And the thing he loved the most was wheelchair racing. And there we were, pushing the wheelchair, racing along, him calling out as much as he could what an idiot I was. The cars were racing by as well, but he was enjoying it. So my main memories are his strength, his emunah, and his sense of humor, which came through so strongly at the end. His love of Israel is reflected in earliest memory of him, when he got his first Tlush Maskoret as a teacher, which was a negative amount. So he said, well, I'm in Israel, well, what do you expect? But I'm still in Israel. He said at one point that he would clean the streets here just to live here. That was the sort of person he was. Israel, emunah, sense of humor. Oh, you've got paper. Oh, we better go. He's going to be forever.
I want to thank Adina for this event. I haven't actually been in touch with Yaakov for about 20 years. I thought I'd write him a letter. Dear Yakov, I'm not very good at letter writing, so it starts slow. I thought I'd remind you of a few things. We met in summer '88 at the Merkaz Klita. When we're meeting you, Yakov showed me two things. First of all, we learned that Jews come from strange places like Teaneck and Monsey and Seattle, Washington, places we never heard of. And for us, all Jews came from Hendon and Golders Green. If they didn't come from there, they weren't Jewish, clearly. And the other thing we learned, it was also a bit of a surprise for us, you know, we knew rabbis. Rabbis were Eastern European gentlemen who had long beards and spoke in funny, strange English, mainly broken. And there's this young guy, and he's a rabbi. It was very strange for us. We never had a rabbi like that. We never met a rabbi who would be a friend of our age. It was just very strange for us. It was a shock, anyway, a cultural shock. And he spoke this funny language. It was very strange. Anyway, one evening, Merkaz Klita, I mean, you have to understand what happens in the Merkaz Klita. Everything is a major event. You know, you get a new, whatever it is, it's a major event. Everybody comes around and sees. We have a new car. And I just found Yaakov and Adina in a certain state. I said, what's the matter? And Yaakov said, well, we need to get to hospital because, well, they didn't know it was going to be Sefi, but, so,
we put them in a state.
yes, that really would. Anyway, so I put them in my car. I don't think the plastic had even come off the seat covers. What?
It was a good thing.
Yes, absolutely, because I never delivered a baby, and I really decided that this was not going to be the chance we were going to do. So I managed to get you to Mayor Hospital, which from my point of view was a big relief, and from your point of view, knowing that the Montego was also a big relief. I never thought the Montego would make it that far, but it did, so that was... And our friendship developed, and Yaakov, you helped our kids to integrate, to learn Ivrit. You were their teacher. Together we walked our kids to school. We did school rotas from the Merkaz Klita to Yavne school. And then we built the minyan. That was the other thing that we did. We all davened together in Merkaz Klita. We built the minyan there. You were the Baal Tefillah. You were always Elena when we needed one, which was most weeks actually. But and then you know, as we left the Merkaz Klita, people went their own ways. We ended up in Ranana. So did you. We helped set up the English minyan. We had to have a token American family, so we let you in. It was.
You needed somebody to lay.
Well, yes, that was the other thing. That was the other thing. So, and you became part of the Chevra. So, I really wanted to fill you in what's been going on since you've left so tragically 20 years ago, way before your time. So, Yaakov, you missed seeing Ilana under the chuppah, a beautiful bride. You missed seeing Danny getting smicha. He's now married with 5 kids. Can you believe that? Sefi went through
Nothing.
Sefi. Yes, Sefi, the one who was almost born in my car. Actually, looking at Sefi now, this next bit's quite difficult to believe. But Sefi went as a teenage, I won't say rebel, but I mean, Sefi actually had hair. And what's more, Sefi actually had long hair. In fact, Sefi had extremely long hair at one time. But no, you know, these things will pass, and they did. Yeah. And you miss seeing Noam growing up, and up, and up, and up, and all of them following your paths in Laning and Chazanut. And of course all of this, and much more, is a great credit to Adina, who has shown herself to be an absolute Eshet Chayil, who whilst working full-time has brought up your family in Darkei Torah. Yaakov, you've got a lot to be proud of. May they go from Chayil to Chayil. May your memory be a blessing to us, to your family, and to us all.
Are you, yes or no?
Come on, just wing it.
I'll just wing it.
Linda wants to do it.
Wait, you guys got a few minutes. My cousin Donnie Gordon had a major clinic in this. He was our shadchan.
Absolutely true. I paid Yaakov the extreme compliment of introducing him to my cousin. Anyway, I refer to Yaakov as my Lamed Vovnik friend and cousin. I remember we spent half a year, I believe it was, living in an apartment at YU, and he was teaching in North Shore Academy. Now, North Shore Academy, for those of you who may not know it, is a school in an area that is very wealthy. It's a bunch of brats. And as a matter of fact, probably most of you have heard of the name Alan King. His son was in Yaakov's class. I was concerned, and when he told me what he was doing, I was concerned that they would be eating him up alive. And I subsequently, not to him, he didn't say anything to me, but I don't remember who told me, he said that the kids loved him. Absolutely loved him. I remember we used to, very often we'd go over the shir that I had heard when he was teaching, and we would sit down and ask each other questions, have a little shakla v'tarya, and I enjoyed that very much. He was very sharp. He knew his stuff, and he was just a spectacular human being. They don't come like that too much.
Donnie mentioned, and a few people have mentioned Yaakov's teaching. It was so much a part of him. I want to read an email that, a WhatsApp that I got from another cousin of Yaakov's, who was also, we lived in the same community in Teaneck, Phyllis Miller. And Phyllis is actually in Israel, and I saw her the other night. She's at a bar mitzvah tonight, otherwise she would be here. She also taught with Yaakov for 3 years. And she sent me the following message today, and she asked that I please share it. Dear Adina, I want to share some memories I have of Yaakov. Not only were we cousins, our mothers were first cousins, we were colleagues as well. Working together enabled us to become closer as relatives and always catch up on family news. There were 3 of us working together, myself, Mara Miller, who taught Ivrit and Navi, and Cantor Vogel and Yaakov, who split Chumash, Mishnah, and Dinim. We were the middle school Judaic faculty of Hillel Academy of Passaic, New Jersey. It was a tiny school. Our 8th graders maybe numbered a dozen. Out of the dozen, I think were 8 boys and 4 girls, right? Close. Those boys were the worst behaved boys I have ever taught in my 25 years of teaching. But Yaakov was the voice of reason. I would constantly turn to him and say, what should I do with these boys? Luckily, we had a break for gym and music, and we used this time to talk shop, to bounce off ideas, talk about which boy had the worst behavior in which class. The 7th grade was no better but smaller, but the 6th grade was a great class. So I do remember that together, the 3 of us decided we will stick it out and teach together for another 3 years, and watch those 6th graders graduate, and the 3 of us, the glue to the middle school, would leave together, which we did, and happily. I do have this memory that Yaakov always wore short-sleeve button-down shirts, even in the winter. I don't know if any of you here in Israel, if kids ever remember Abba wearing long-sleeve shirts?
Abba?
I think we got it from him.
Right. One year for Hanukkah, the students bought Yaakov a long-sleeve shirt. I may have called you Adina for Yaakov's shirt size, and when Yaakov wore the long-sleeve shirt, there was such an uproar. Oh my gosh, Rabbi Appel is wearing a long-sleeve shirt. Yaakov was very well respected. He was really affectionately called Rabbi by all of his students. He never raised his voice and always made sure that the 3 of us never scheduled a test on the same day. For many years, I would run into some of the parents who would always first ask about Rabbi Appel and Adina and family, and later on, ask fondly about Adina. It shows what a great influence Yaakov had not only on his students, but a profound, lasting impression on the parents as well. It was truly a gift to spend those 3 years with Yakov in trying times, dealing with such awful behaviors, and in good times with laughter and joy. I must also add that I also remember relying on Yakov to explain any difficult psukim or difficult Rashi to me. I'm sorry I can't be with you tonight, but I wanted to share these memories with you and the family. May the memories always be a bracha and a comfort to the family. I think about Yakov often. I want to introduce, I'm going to say Aviva Starashevsky, but that's not her name anymore. It's Aviva Zaks, one of Yakov's students from this Hillel Academy in Passaic.
One of the girls, one of the well-behaved girls.
One of the good girls.
The girls were good. It wasn't girls.
So I'll start with Rabbi Appel was my teacher for 3 years, for 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. I guess the only years he was in Hillel, I didn't even know that. So I decided in 4th grade, sometime in the middle of 4th grade, I was going to call him Rebbe. I don't think anybody else in the class called him that, just me. But I wanted a Rebbe. I don't even know where I heard that word before, but he was such a Rebbe to me. I felt a lot of love of Torah, where we didn't necessarily have that before. It was a very small school. There were about 110 kids in 1st to 8th grade. My class had 7 kids in it, 5 wild boys and 2 good girls. And we really learned, and it wasn't easy. But what Rabbi Appel taught us was, first of all, every single day in the afternoon, we had his class in the afternoon for some, I guess because he taught the older kids in the morning, so he taught us Limudei Kodesh in the afternoon, that's how it was. And we davened in the afternoons. From the beginning of davening till Aleinu, because he wanted to teach us how to daven properly and learn Psukei de Zimra and learn how to really daven, because by 6th grade we were already going to daven with the older kids. So we needed to be prepared. So we would go through and we did it out loud every single afternoon. We davened the entire thing. To say that Rabbi Appel had an influence on me is a gross understatement. I eventually became a teacher. I taught 4th grade, Limudei Kodesh, and I designed my test exactly like Rabbi Appel did. Exactly. I even laid it out exactly the same way on the paper. Because although I didn't handwrite it, he handwrote it. Because no one can read my handwriting. So I did teach 4th grade.
Computers when he was
Right,
teaching.
and they were mimeographs, so they had that smell, like it came out purple, and they had that mimeograph smell. And so I did that, and he really made a major impact on my life in terms of being a teacher, and being a person, but being a teacher. I also, every Friday, would sing Zmirot with my students. Rabbi Appel taught us a lot of the Kabbalat Shabbat, so that we could go to shul and know how to daven and understand what we were saying and how to sing it. He let me be chazanit sometimes, which was really great, because I couldn't do that in shul, but I could do that in the classroom. So there's that. And then when I came to Israel, I decided can't teach Limudei Kodesh because my Hebrew's not good enough. So I guess I'll be an English teacher. So I looked for a job as an English teacher, and the summer I was thinking that I'd like to start doing that, I found an ad in one of the Modi'in listservs, and they were looking for an English teacher to teach English speakers. And so I applied for the job, and the person who hired me was the Rakezet Anglit, who is Donnie's mother-in-law. So I got to be reconnected with the Appel family again. And every time I saw Donnie and every time I saw Mazalit, I always mentioned how much of a tremendous influence Rabbi Appel had on me, to the point where I saw him more often than I saw my own father, because my father would come home late and I was going to sleep early, so I saw him like for half an hour a day. So by accident, sometimes I called him Abba. He didn't make me feel bad. So anyway, I just wanted to thank you very much for letting me know.
I want to ask you if you remember something. At one point, twice in my life, I asked Yaakov's student. I have letters from 2 periods of Yaakov's life from his students. One, I initiated when he was sick. I asked as many students as possible that I can get in touch with to write letters to cheer him up. But when we left New Jersey, when we left Teaneck to move to Seattle, his students wrote to him in their handwriting. Aviva wrote one of the letters. I can read it. I think I have it here. And there was a few things if it's not yours in the kitchen, is that yours? Yeah, one of these is yours. But it was just really amazing that, and I'll read you some of those letters in a minute. But one of the things that a lot of the students talked about from Hillel was a song that Yaakov used to. Do you know Ninth Man? Did he talk to you about Ninth Man? Okay, so we're going to play Ninth Man. I don't know if you know this song, but yeah. Okay, I'm glad you're confirming it because you'll listen to the song and you'll hear that the song was completely spoke to Yaakov.
Young yeshiva boys way back in '65. We were known throughout the city as the bums from the east side. In school we never studied, all we did was laugh and play. No Rebbe ever lasted long, they all just ran away. Rebbe tried to teach us the Torah each and every day, but we just closed our eyes and ears to everything he'd say. And all we like to do was sit and watch our TV sets. We talk about the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Mets. Well, the principal brought the new Rebbe in the first day of the term, and he said to us, show discipline, be strong and tough and firm. Don't think these youngsters run the school, he said with a big frown. And by the way, for the next few weeks, I'm going out of town. This here Rebbe, he was strange, he never lost his cool. He just kept on teaching while we broke all the rules. And though we hadn't even learned a single word all year, it was Pesach time already, and the Rebbe was still here. Rebbe tried to teach us Torah each and every day, but we just closed our eyes and ears to everything he'd say. And all we like to do was sit and watch our TV sets. We talk about the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Mets.
Can I explain that to the
When Laura Homer came around, it was time to play that game. Against those boys from Brooklyn, how we prayed it wouldn't rain. All 9 of us got on the bus with our gloves and bats. Rebbe also came along in his jacket, tie, and hat. Right from the start, we all could see things weren't going right. Some big drunk kid from Bensonhurst had hit one out of sight. And just when things were looking up, the tide about to turn, our catcher went and broke his leg while sliding into third. It's a forfeit, cried the other team, you only got 8 guys. No, we don't, a deep voice said, much to our surprise. Since I am their Rebbe, well, the fair thing it would seem is let me be the 9th man on this team. Rebbe went, picked up a bat, faced the pitcher with a smile. Found the cover off that ball, went about half a mile. He flew around the bases and scored the winning run. He danced and cheered until he said, now boys, you owe me one. Next day in the classroom, no one moved and no one stirred. Rebbe started teaching, and his voice it could be heard. We all said, hey, it's interesting, the man he is no more. The legendary East Side Bums are gone forevermore. Rebbe used to teach us Torah each and every day. We opened up our eyes and ears to everything he'd say. No more did sit all day and watch our TV sets. We talked about the Rashi and the Tosos.
Also from the same school in Hillel Academy was a student called Chaim Statenauer. And when Yaakov was sick, he was one of the students who wrote in letters. And he wrote the following, and this is one of the things that made me think about this song. This is a letter he wrote in April of 1998, in 1998, when Yaakov was sick. He said, I'm probably one of Rabbi Appel's few students who had him in Eagle Day Camp prior to Hillel Academy. Those good old days when he was trying to teach us Mishnayos, while we were busy trying to see who could dig the deepest ditch. This lack of interest in learning has changed with my year in Israel. And then he goes on to say he's a clerk in law firm, but a lot of Yaakov students would talk about how Yaakov was there to play ball with them, and he was there as a friend. Playing ball, singing with them, he was much more than a teacher. He really, that was a lot of the letters that we have talk about him as a friend, but this song really spoke out, and a lot of students actually mentioned it. It's a nice thing to share. My nephew Ben Hillman.
Okay, I would like to say a thing. I'll do it in Hebrewish, okay, so everybody understand it. Okay, this was the first time I visited Aunt Adina. This was even before I was married, so it was a very long time ago. Okay, so she invited, not my wife, I don't know if she was even my fiancée, she invited me and Yael to Shabbat dinner, Friday night. Now, Adina is probably going to say that the most funniest thing that happened, the most important thing is one thing, but I really think that other things were much more important than that. Okay, because
my niece. I mean, that was the most important.
Yeah. Okay. So actually, the Friday Shabbat was very special. Until this day, I don't know how the kids were so quiet, because I told myself, wow, you know, when I get married and everything, my kids are going to be all so quiet at the table. When we're going to sing Smirot Shabbat was wonderful, but it happens once or twice. But all of the time, it's amazing. And so Yaakov really, it was very nice Shabbat dinner with the Smirot Shabbat, and also the Dvar Torah, which also I said was very special. And then I needed to go someplace. So I went inside and locked the door, and that's it. I went, did my thing, even washed my hands like a good boy. Okay, chaos, and the door locked. Didn't work. And I'm like, okay, what do you do now? Like, the door is locked, it's Shabbat, they're waiting, I think it was even before we benched, so they're waiting for me. And the door is locked. Now you can't scream, you can't do anything, you can't do so. Okay, so I'm looking at the window now, the window outside, I'm looking if I can squeeze between the balconies. She lives on the first floor. So I really don't know what to do, and in the end, you know, really, I think it was Yaakov who came and actually, what's happening there? And I'm like saying, no, I'm not doing the big thing there. I'm locked out. Like, everything's okay, fine. So in the end, after a while, I got out of the door. And when I visit Adina, I don't lock the door anymore.
But Yaakov went downstairs and threw a wrench upstairs.
Yeah, the wrench. I think we broke the door, but I think the most important wasn't me getting lost. I think the most important thing is what I took with me, and that really was a special Shabbat of looking of Adina and also Yaakov, of them singing the Zmirot Shabbat and also the saying about Torah. And it's something which I also try to do. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. but at least I learned very much and took a lot of things from them. Okay? So יישר כוח תדין
That way,
אבל.
we got you out, but.
תדין okay. Yeah, you want me out. That's
First of all, I think it's kind of nice having this evening in the same room where Yaakov did the Siyum 20 years ago. He started Mishnayos after he got sick already, and he went through the whole thing. So it's just bringing back that memory. I'm sorry? More than 20. More than 20. Well, I'm not as young as he is. It's one of the things that Yaakov, you talked about his sense of humor. He had a self-deprecating sense of humor as well, and we always joked with him about his age because he was somewhat older than most of us. Although, as I look around the room, most of us are kind of like older than he was 20 years ago. Well, I am, but all you other guys stay young. You talked about the students writing, and one of the things that impressed me most was he had not been teaching already in that area for 10 years. And the students still felt enough of a kesher to him that they wanted to take part in this mishima, this mission, to boost Yaakov's, to boost his morale. There's something else I wanted to say. It's a good thing I had this. Sorry, I don't have pages, but
I'm still punching.
And the other thing, the final thing, was that when we made Aliyah, we met Adina and Yaakov, we were thinking it's so strange that we know so many people in common that it was weird that we didn't know each other. And then my wife and I, Reeve and I, were discussing afterwards. We both had at least heard of Yaakov before. Yaakov was a very close friend of my brother-in-law, Shalom. And Reva said she still remembers writing out the invitation to her sister's wedding, writing Rabbi Yakov Appel. I said, who is this guy? And then I met him years earlier at an NCSY Shabbaton, where he was a respected advisor in Jackson Heights, Queens. So that was kind of nice, all of these things coming full circle. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. So, as a continuation to Sefi, I'll also say about Torah, about one of the aspects of my father's life. I'll say it in Hebrew because it's easier for me. על הניגון. תמיד חשבתי לעצמי כזה, לי בתקופה מסוימת בחיים זה נראה מאוד מאוד חומרי, ועדיין זה תופס מקום מאוד 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 רחב ביהדות. יש את הניגון של הלוויים בבית המקדש, יש את מזמורי תהילים, אבל יש בחסידות, יש לזה רעיון מאוד 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 עמוק. יש את מיוחס לבעל התניא שאומר שהניגון הוא בוקע רקיעים בשמיים שהדיבור לא יכול. זאת אומרת, יש מקום שהדיבור נעצר והניגון ממשיך. אבל אני חושב שזה גם עובד בכיוון ההפוך. זאת אומרת, אנחנו יכולים במעשים שלנו לבטא את עצמנו, בדיבור שלנו לבטא את עצמנו, אבל דווקא הניגון הוא לא רק מבטא את עצמנו, הוא מבטא יותר את הרובד היותר פנימי שלנו, היותר עמוק שלנו. ואני חושב שדווקא בגלל זה תופס מקום מאוד 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 עמוק ומאוד רחב ביהדות, שעבודת השם צריכה להיות מתוך איזשהו עומק, מתוך מקום פנימי. יש עוד תפיסה של ניגון. ניגון זה איזשהו הוא מתאר גם איזושהי אישיות. רבי נחמן, באחד התורות שדווקא לא תלמידים שלו פרסמו, דווקא נעמי שמר פרסמה, הוא מדבר על הרועה, על המחנך, שיודע לזהות את הניגון, יש לו את הניגון שלו, יש לו את הדרך שלו, ויודע לזהות לכל תלמיד ותלמיד מה הדרך המיוחדת לו. הוא מדבר על הרועה שיש לו את הניגון שלו, ויודע לתת לכל בהמה ולכל זה את העשב והעשב שלו. ובאמת שורה בערך מהתורה הזאת השתרבבה לשירת העשבים, שמבוסס אחרי זה גם על עוד כמה תורות שלו. אני מאוד רוצה להאמין שאבא שלי היה מחנך כזה, שיודע לזהות כל תלמיד מה הוא צריך, איך לגשת אליו, איך לפנות אליו, איך ללמד, איך לחנך. במחשבה הזאת, אני שיר של שירת העשבים. שנייה. רגע.
דע לך שכל אוהב ואוהב יש לו ניגון מיוחד משלו. דע לך שכל עשב ועשב יש לו שירה מיוחדת משלו.
בהמשך למה שנועם דיבר, ממש בשני מילים, הדף היומי של היום שואל על מניין לעיקר שירה מן התורה. והגמרא מדברת על שיר שחייבים בזמן הקורבן, שזה מעכב, לא מעכב. אז הגמרא אומרת שכתוב בשיר בשם אלוקיו, איזו שירו בשם השם, הווי אומר זה שירה. ואז הגמרא אומרת שבמקום אחר, כתוב תחת אשר לא עבד השם אלוקיו בשמחה ובטוב לבב. איזו עבודה שבשמחה ובטוב לבב זה שירה. שואלת הגמרא אולי זה תורה, ואתה אומר, התורה זה פיגודי ישרים ושמחי לב, אבל זה משמחי לב זה כן, אבל זה לא טוב. אני זכיתי בשנה האחרונה, שנתיים האחרונות שיעקב היה חולה, הייתי כל יום שלישי, מגריס קצת בישיבה, והולך ומבקר אותו. והיה שני דברים, שזה בדיוק כמו שנועם דיבר, שזה פשוט היה מדהים לראות את זה, שהוא היה גם בתקופה שהוא בקושי היה יכול לדבר, הוא היה יכול לשיר שירים, להגיד את המילים בבירור שהוא לא אמר את זה. כשלמדתי איתו, או שאמרתי לו דבר תורה, אז הוא היה כולו כבר לא שמה, אבל כשהדבר תורה זה פשוט ממש הדליק אותו, ממש הוא התעורר לחיים. איזשהו פעם אחת, ממש לפני שהוא נפטר, הבאתי כמה חברים, ומונה רוזנבלום בזמנו, וממש, זה היה ממש, אולי חודש לפני שנפטר? כן, חצי שנה, לא. והוא היה ממש לא במצב טוב, אבל בשירה, עשינו גם סיום בסרט שם וגם בשירה. הוא היה מאוד מאוד נהנה והתרגש, והוא אחרי זה אמר לי כל פעם שביקרתי איתו, הוא אמר כמה זה עשה לו וכמה זה דברים שעשה לו טוב. לילה לפני שנפטר, הייתי אצלו, וכבר לא כל כך היה בעניינים וכל זה, והוא, כנראה שהוא זיהה אותי, לחץ את היד בלחיצה שלא אשכח אותה הרבה זמן, בסוג שכזה אומר, תמשיכו את התורה ואת השירה שתמשיכו. וזה היה כזה סוג של להמשיך את הדבר הזה, ואתמול, לפני 6 שנים, נולד לי הבן שלי, אלעד יעקב, וכשהוא נולד, רצינו את השם אלעד וזה, ואז איכשהו אמא שלי, לא יודעת, דינה אמרה שזה בדיוק היום של יומן של יעקב. ובהמשך מהדף ימי כתוב שמגלגלים זכות ביום שהוא זכות, זאת אומרת, לא סתם נולד, ולכן קראנו לו גם אלעד יעקב. וזה באמת הדבר הזה שהוא ממש, הערב הזה, יש הרבה דברים שהולכים לקברים וזה, שזה מאוד חשוב ללכת לזה, אבל פה פשוט מחיים את הבן אדם, ממש כמו שזה אמרו, את התורה ואת השירה של זאת השם.
טוב, האמת היא שהדינה ביקשה מקרן, אני אגיד משהו. קרן אמרה שאני לא אגיד, היא צדקה שלא התכוונתי לדבר, כי מזלי, הזיכרון שלי לא מספיק טוב כדי לזכור דברים שקרו כל כך הרבה שנים אחורה. אבל בכל זאת רציתי להגיד ככה, שמבחינתי, יעקב, את זה אני זוכר, לא זוכר אנקדוטות מסוימות, זוכר כמובן את התפילה, בוכנס וכדומה, אבל זוכר שיעקב, מבחינתי, ואמר את זה פיל, היה רב מסוג אחר שלא הכרתי. מי שמכיר ויודע אותי, אני לרבנים, דברים שלא מסתדרים אף פעם. לא היה מאז ומעולם, ואני חייב לבוא ולהגיד שחשבתי על זה, חשבתי עכשיו כזה שמדברים, שאם היה לי רב חבר, זה רק יעקב. מאז לא היה לפני ולא אחרי, אני ורבנים לא חברים. ובאמת יעקב היה חבר, מכיוון שפשוט הוא היה אדם צנוע, ענב, מצחיק, חכם, תמיד היה על מה לדבר איתו, תמיד היה איש שיחה נעים, תמיד היה מעביר דברי תורה, תמיד היו דברי תורה בטעם, ותמיד הייתי מדבר איתו אחר כך על דברים שהוא אמר, ומדבר על דברים שאני אמרתי, ופשוט מעולם לא הרגשתי, ואני אומר שוב, זה נורא מוזר, כי באמת אנחנו גדלנו היום, הדור הצעיר, באמת יש רבנים שהם לא מגודלי זקן, ושכן, אני יודע לכם מכנסיים קצרות, וכן אני יכול לדבר איתו כל דבר בעולם. זה לא היה אז מבחינתי, איך אני יכול ככה, סתם שיחת חולים, ואפילו לספר בדיחות או מצחיקות, או כמו שצריך לספר לזה, אבל כל הרץ, זאת אומרת, לא היה אף פעם הרגשה כזאת. אני חייב לבוא ולהגיד, עכשיו אני דיברתי עם דוד ברשטיין, אמרתי לו הוא אמר, אתה רואה בסוף הצלחת לבחור רב לבית הכנסת, לאוהל הריב, ואז אמרתי לו, אתה יודע למה בא הכלל של השני שליש לבחור רב, כדי שיהיה קשה לבחור רב? כי מבחינתי היה את יעקב, ואני, מבחינתי זה היה כל כך טוב שהיה לנו רב, אמרתי, לא יכול להיות מישהו שיכול להיות יותר טוב ממנו, היה כל מיני איזו שאלה בבית הכנסת, אני שואלים אותו, היה כמובן מבחינתי מה שטוב, תמיד היה בקל, אף פעם לא היה, כך לדעתי צריך להיות. ולכן גם לא היו הפעם ללמוד בכנסת דברים הלכתיים, וכל מה שבאמת רצינו והיה בתחום ההלכה, אף פעם לא הייתה בעיה. ולכן באמת הרגשתי שיעקב היה חבר אמיתי, וחבר שהוא חסר, וכמו שאמרתי, אני מאז לא מצאתי עוד רב.
I just remember every year on Yom Ha'atzmaut, I think of you and Yaakov. You had a running argument about Hallel on Yom Ha'atzmaut.
וזה הוא היה פחות בקר, אבל הוא עדיין הרשה לי, היה, מי שרוצה לדעת, היה ביום העצמאות, היה מחלוקת גדולה עם להגיד הלל, גם בלילה, לא, עוד יותר.
היום בוודאי שאם
לא, כן, בלילה עוד עם ברכה. מה לעשות שמי שגדל בבתי כנסת בישראל, לפני שהגיעו רבנים מחמירים, היינו אומרים הלל עם ברכה ביום העצמאות. ולעומת זאת, במקומות אחרים לא אמרו, והייתה מחלוקת גדולה, כמו שהזכיר לי, בסוף החליטו לשאול רב, שאני לא אגיד את שמו, והרב הזה נתן תשובה ואמר, אצלי בבית כנסת אומרים עם ברכה בלילה, אבל אתם אל תעשו את זה. ואמרתי, כל הכבוד, בפסק הלכה הזה, אני לא מבין את זה, זה קשר בשבילי ולא בשבילכם, ולכן אמרתי ליעקב שאני ממשיך להגיד הלל עם ברכה, יום העצמאות בערב, וזה עבד בשלום, הוא לא הסכים איתי, ובעיקר שהייתה פסיקת רב, אבל הסיכום היה שאני אהיה חזן ביום העצמאות בערב, וזו הייתה לי חזקה, וכך באמת שוב יעקב קיבל את זה.
לעשות את זה הפסק של רב סולובייצ'יק, אז הוא הלך אותי הרבי שלו. שמה? שלא אומרים הלאים ברכה. צעק על הבניין בגישים ונבחרתי כשאתי לעשות את זה, נכנס לבניין, אבל מה אתם עושים עליו חדשות?
מה?
הוא אמר להם, למה אתם חכים הלכה? לכן, הוא רק הלך לפי הפסק של הרבי שלו.
שמי שיקרה בחוץ לארץ, רב סולובייצ'יק, זה
Before Mayor speech, I'd like to just introduce it. Mayor Appel graduated in YT.
When he graduated, I graduated.
And then years went by that they hadn't seen each other. You tell the story. You know it.
So actually, last time Rabbi Yakov was in a yearbook, which I subsequently.
The last time I saw Yaakov Zal was in a picture of our yearbook, which I think lost. Okay, the yearbook, not the picture. I lost that too. And what happened was, I hadn't seen him for years. We met Aliyah in 1981, and our paths just never crossed before that. And even in Eretz Israel, we didn't meet each other. I was living on Moshav Tejau, which is very far away from here, both physically and conceptually. And we just didn't have an opportunity to see each other. The first time I saw him was in a minyan in Bank Pagi, actually. We were on the 29th floor of Migdal Shalom. And he walked in, and I said, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "I work for the Bush's Kasira." I said, "You're an accountant?" He says, "No, I'm a translator." Ah, okay. And so we would get to see each other every day at Mincha time, and we'd schmooze a little bit. It was sort of like also in YU were in different circles. You know, he was in one of the good guys, and I was one of the less good guys. I was a little more shovati. And what happened was that I noticed after 2 or 3 months I didn't see him. Yeah, that's just because every time I talk about this I cry. Even now. So I asked some of the fellows, well, that was not unusual because maybe we went to Miluim. You know, we did do Miluim in those days. And so they told me what happened, and I felt like devastated. First of all, when somebody your own age gets sick like that, all of a sudden you start realizing how vulnerable you are. You're not going to live forever. And second of all, you say, what am I going to do about this? So normally you call the guy up and say, "Before Shalom, that's the end of the story, Shalom Yisrael." And somehow or other, by the way, I just wanted to add, though, Yaakov and I have the same taste in music. Okay? And I was from Brooklyn. Anyhow, whatever. So I said, I want to do something this time. So he was at home. So I said, I'm going to call him every day. The only thing is that he and I really didn't have that much in common. I'm an accountant, he's a translator, he's a mechanech, I'm not a mechanech, okay? And after like the second or third day that I did this, it felt very, very artificial. You know, what am I going to talk about? Neither one of us are sports fans, Madasot. And so what am I going to do? And then I had an idea. I said, Yaakov, I said, "You want to learn?" And he said, "Yeah." So I said, "What do you want to learn?" He said, "Whatever you want." I said, "How about we learn Mishnah Berurah?" He said, "Great." So that's what we started doing. Every day from 2 to 2:15, right after Mincha, okay? And it didn't make a difference what I was doing in the bank, okay? I would call him up and learn for 15 minutes. Sometimes I would read the Mishnah, I would read the Mechaber and give him the Mishnah Berurah. And this went on for months and months and months, and little by little, it was starting to be hard for him to read. So he said, "Maybe you should read." And he was my chavrusa for that whole time. And I didn't so much want to talk about this because I don't want him to think that I'm some special person. I'm not special. Okay, so he was special. He brought out what was good to me. I also want to point out that what you said about מה שאמרת בקשר לשירה, אני זוכר שהיינו אצלם בשבת, ואף אחד לא יכול לדבר, אבל זמירות ידעת איך לשיר. It's amazing. He says, when he was we went for Shabbat, we spent a couple of Shabbat together, and Shabbatot, and he couldn't speak anymore, but he could still sing music. Okay? Brain is an amazing thing, and it just shows you how ingrained Shira was in him. And the night he passed away. So his wife called us up and told, you should come now. So we ran to the hospital. And I walked in, and I said to him, I said, Yaakov, he said, you want to learn? He shook, he said, yes. And we learned. And I think that was the last thing that he did.
Yaakov clearly died with Divrei Torah.
Okay. I had this course, and this is tremendous. And he should be a man that's Yosher for all of us. I just want to tell you that you're an amazing community. Okay, 20 years after a person's nifter and 20 people showed up, you tavod and bracha. Mash miyuchad.
We'll try and understand. Okay, I'm going to be very, very brief because I'm not good at this. Is this on? I'm really not good at this. I don't remember the past conversations. I can't record everything word by word, what people, who said what, who did this. Somebody sitting here, I think the other side of the room, that can tell me what I said 40 years ago word for word. I just don't remember these things. The only thing I remember, which I'm surprised nobody brought it up, when Yaakov was sick, that whole tekufa,
I remember one time went into the hospital to visit him, and Yaakov was davening. I don't know if I'm sure everybody remembers it. Yaakov was davening and in his sickness, when he could barely get the words out, it took him an hour to daven Shacharis. He never stopped, he never gave up. I remember once sitting next to his bed in the hospital, waiting for like an hour to finish. And let's say something about something. Anyway, that's really all I can remember to say right now.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm just going to read a few stuff that they do know English, by the way. Just going to read a few stuff that came from my cousins in the States. His nephew, Dov Pinchat. I'll start with his wife, Lori Pinchat. I will never forget when Uncle Yaakov showed up at our house in Chicago in an RV with a bunch of friends. I was probably about 9 years old and could still picture the giant RV pulling up and Uncle Yaakov, the great adventurer, coming out the door. I was so proud that my own uncle was traveling across the whole country. Since then, I have always wanted to take that same trip. That also sounds like fun. I'm up for that, yeah. Rabbi Appel, another nephew. It's tough to figure out where to start. My earliest memories of my Uncle Yaakov were from his single days living in Brooklyn. When we go visit Buddy and Zadie, we'd bring our baseball mitts, and Uncle Yaakov would play catch with us in the yard. I was 10 years old at your wedding, and I clearly remember the trip to Chicago, the Leiblik dancing, and the simcha that filled the room. Perhaps my most vivid recollections come from after my bar mitzvah, when Yaakov taught me the laning for Yemim Noraim, the Nosach HaTfilah for Yom Kippur Mincha, which I used in my father's shul from then until it finally closed down. When we spent the summer of 1995 in Seattle, people still recalled your time there, and everyone fondly remembered you. Your good name has spread far and wide and will not be forgotten. Anyone else want to talk?
She's coming. Straight from the plane. Yeah.
Straight from the plane. I didn't have much time to prepare anything. We talked about it on the plane a little bit, but back in Teaneck, what years was it? I don't know.
80 to 86.
80 to 86. We were next door neighbors. We shared a sukkah, and one thing I certainly remember is that any meal that we shared in the sukkah, of course, there were Divrei Torah and Zmirot. But there's one thing that I do now that I would never have done, and I do it continuously ever since then. We were having the last meal in Sukkah, and Yaakov said that we can say that's very nice. So it's B'tirah that you say goodbye to the Sukkah. It's a beautiful way to end the Chag. I'm sure people are at least as familiar with it, and maybe there's some people who are not familiar with it at all. But it's something that you can incorporate. And Yaakov, of course, stands as a model of humility, wisdom, the ability to educate each individual child according to the individual child's needs is what he was known for. But I also want to say a word about Adina and the beautiful family that she raised under difficult circumstances. And I want to also recall and thank that you hosted her daughter Rivka when she was in seminary, and Yaakov was quite sick. I don't know how you did it, but it was before he was sick. Whoops.
She may not know.
Well, thank you for hosting.
First Shabbos they were in Israel when they were down.
Thank you for hosting Rivka. Anyway, this memory should be a blessing for all of us.
Anybody, the mic is open if anybody would like.
Open mic, thank you.
Moishi. Moishi. We've got the next generation. Moishi Weiss.
I wasn't asked by Dina to talk. I was asked by Danny. Yaakov, he wasn't my friend, he wasn't my rabbi. He was another parent of a friend. Is it? Can you hear me now? I have many memories of Yaakov.
And if there's one commonality between all of them, whether it's the first memory when we went to him for lunch and he did this strange thing when he brought out Mayim Achronim that I'd never seen before, and I said to him, "Why are you doing that? What is that?" And he looked a bit confused at me, then my dad, saying like, "It's in the Mishnah Berurah."
Only for those who keep it.
Which is what my dad said then. So one of the most later memories when he was already sick, and I was watching him daven and thinking, "But you're by yourself. Why are you doing the Chadodi twice? You don't need to do it twice. It's even written once." And I knew how long it was taking him to daven. I couldn't understand it. But there was one thing that was always the same in every single memory I have of him, which is he always stopped, looked at me, and gave me an answer, not from a parent or there was. Eli said before that U'ikdim et zmano, in the sense that he was just this outgoing rabbi that anyone could talk to. U'ikdim et zmano as well in his ability to talk to kids. He wasn't this grown-up who needed to patronize or needed to give an answer. He just saw you begov v'einayim, and I felt he was just talking to me like anyone would, like my friends would, or like my parents would talk to each other. There was no, I have to explain things to you because you're a child, or go away because you're boring. He just literally always had the time of day, would always explain things to me, would always talk to me, and I think it was his lesson in Shavuot that was the first time I thought.
Torah for my brother-in-law Shlomo, Yakov Ishtam, Yoshev Ohalim, and Yaakov's a wholesome man, a dweller of tents. And Rashi comments, the Ramot Charif Eino, Piv Ken Kilibo Tam. What's in his heart is in his mouth. There's no trickery. Dwelling in the tents, just of learning of Shem Ve'ever, we believe that this pasuk, with Rashi's interpretation, reflects Yaakov's life. He truly was Piv Ken Kilibo, and as the Emek HaDavar addresses, what's in his mouth is in his heart. He is pure, but not split in two. And that was Yaakov. He learned and taught Torah. He taught to hundreds of children. In his minyan in Renana, he was looked up to. He loved to daven and lane. And everyone who knew him can attest that one of Yaakov's defining characteristics was his beautiful singing voice, which some of my children inherited from their father and some inherited singing abilities from their mother. That would be, yeah.
You too.
You guys know who you are. He enjoyed nothing more than sitting around the Shabbat table singing Zmirot. And Uncle Shlomo writes to you, Noam, when we hear you sing, we are always reminded of your Abba. For many years in our shul in Richmond Hill, he was one of the Balei Tefillah and the Yomim Noraim. And when he davened, we all truly felt Yisrael Tehilot, Yoshev Tehilot Yisrael Mefached. I can't read it's backwards here, sorry. His whole body was enthused with Tefillah completely. In his last 2 difficult years, it was his learning and davening that kept him going. He had daily sidarim and chavrutot by phone and in person, by many of you, by the way, in this room who were learning with Yaakov on a regular basis. He was meticulous in his davening, and which as time progressed took him longer and longer, but he refused to yield or even skip any part of the tefillah. And I have to stop for a second and say that at various points when Yaakov was in the hospital, and I learned how to put tefillin on because he could no longer use his right arm, and I'd go to the hospital and put tefillin on for him, and I would stand there and I would daven chakras out loud. And Yaakov's davening was kind of a little different than my davening. I'm very fast in my davening. Yaakov was not. And he would grab my hand when I would skip a word or not say it right. He would literally, with his good hand, grab my hand and make me stop and go over it again. There was no, cheating on Yaakov. And Shlomo writes, he was meticulous in his davening, which as time progressed took him longer and longer, but he refused to yield or even skip any part of the davening. We've never seen so much learning in Divrei Torah in a hospital room as we saw in Yaakov's. His chavrutot continued to come, and on occasion, you could tell that Yaakov did not agree with how they learned Pshat, and he would try to protest. Others of all ages would come and just relate Divrei Torah, as it says in Pirkei Avot, and it's B'nehem Shruya Shchina. Listening to his young sons, Dani and Sefi, reading Pirkei Avot to him was heartbreaking, but it was also a Kiddush Hashem. Yes, Yaakov was Ish tam yoshev ohalim. What is tam? What is tmimut? That is Ar Yaakov. Ish tam yoshev ohalim.